class 8th. So we have been studying chapter number 9, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction in animals. Yes. Well, today it's very cold. Yeah, the weather is very cold today, and really I'm waiting for the sunlight. Then it will be sunny. Well, let's without wasting the time, let's begin today's topic. Yes, today we will study the topic which is known as test tube baby. Test tube baby. Yes, test tube baby. Yes, this topic is going to be very interesting, and kids, we will also revise the topic that we studied in previous classes. Okay, that we will also revise, but before we revise, let's study this topic, let's complete it. Okay, so the reproduction. What is reproduction? The process of giving birth. Reproduction is actually a process of giving birth to new baby. Yes, so as you know that birth to new baby is given by female. birth to new baby Birth to new baby is given by woman. Yes, woman gives birth to the baby. Yes, so in some woman, what happens, their fallopian tube is blocked. What is fallopian tube? Fallopian tube is that tube where sperm sperm means male gamete and egg means female gamete, they fertilize. Yes, they meet with each other. Yes, okay, so when it get blocked, if it will be blocked, then fertilization process will not occur, zygote will not form. If zygote will not form, embryo will not develop. If embryo will not develop, fetus will not form. If fetus will not form, then the baby will not born. So in some women, oviduct means fallopian tubes are blocked. These women are unable to bear babies. Yes, that's why these women are unable to bear baby. They cannot give birth to the baby. Okay, because sperm cannot reach the egg. Yes, sperm cannot reach the egg because fallopian tube is blocked, and from the ovary, the egg which are released, they will not come in. They will not come in fallopian tube. Yes, so in such case, doctor use a technology. Yes, doctor use a technology, okay, to give birth. Okay, so babies born through this technique. This technique is known as test tube baby. Babies born through this technique is known as test tube baby. So in such kind of mother, what happens? Because we know that they cannot give birth to the baby, so in such cases, doctor collect two things. Doctor collect egg and sperm. Yes, doctor collect egg and sperm. Yes, doctors collect freshly released egg and sperm. Yes, doctors collect freshly released egg and sperm, egg of the mother and sperm of the father. So doctor collect them and keep them together. Yes, and put them together, keep them together for few hours. For IVF. Yes, it put for IVF process. What is IVF? IVF means in vitro fertilization. IVF means in vitro fertilization. In vitro, VITRO, vitro fertilization, FERTILIZATION, fertilize, IVF. So doctor collect male gametes and female gamete. Yes, means egg and sperm, and keep them for few hours for IVF. Yes, what is IVF? IVF is a process by which egg cells are fertilized by sperm outside the womb. Yes. So, what is IVF? By IVF process, the cell, which cell? Egg cell, are fertilized by sperm. Yes, the egg cell can fuse with sperm. When they fuse, they fertilize. So it happens outside the womb by IVF technology. So in case when the fertilization occur, the zygote will form. Yes. So this zygote is allowed to develop for about a week. Okay, outside. Yes, zygote develop outside for a week. Then after a week, outside it will develop. Then after a week, it will be placed in the mother's uterus. Yes, this zygote will be placed in the uterus of mother. Yes, in the mother's uterus. Okay. And then later the complete development process take place inside the uterus. Yes, then the complete process take place inside the uterus, and baby is born like other babies. Yes, and baby will born just similar to other baby, and babies born through this technique are called test tube baby. Yes, babies born through this technique are called test tube. So what happens? Step number one. Step number one. Doctor collect sperm and egg. Doctor collect sperm and egg. Sperm means male gamete. Egg means female gamete or egg cell, you can say. Okay. Doctor collect both. Now step number two. Doctors keep them together for few hours for IVF. Doctors keep them for few hours for IVF. Okay, what is IVF? IVF is means in vitro fertilization. IVF is a process by which egg cells are fertilized by sperm outside the womb. Okay, now so in when doctor keep sperm and egg together for few hours, they start fertilizing. Yes, and zygote is formed. Okay, now step number three, this zygote is allowed to develop for a week, and then it is placed into mother's uterus. Yes, zygote is placed in the mother's uterus. Okay, then complete development take place inside the uterus, where the baby is born just like other babies. Okay, and this technique is called test tube baby. Yes, this technique is very helpful. Those parents who cannot give birth to the baby, by this test tube they can give birth to the baby. Okay, so this is very useful technique. Okay. Okay, and in previous class we studied about the internal fertilization and external fertilization. Yes, do you remember in previous class we studied about internal fertilization and external fertilization? So what is internal fertilization? The fertilization which take place inside the female body, like in human being, cow, buffalo, they take place inside the body. The fertilization which takes place inside the female body is called internal fertilization. And what is external fertilization? The fertilization which takes place outside the female body, the fertilization which takes place outside the female body is called external fertilization. It happens in frogs, fishes, starfish. Yes, frogs, fishes, starfish. So we also studied that during sexual reproduction process, the sperms are released by male reproductive organ, and eggs are released by female reproductive organ. The eggs reaches to the female tube, and sperms enter through the vagina, and they reaches to the fallopian tube where the fertilization occur. Yes. So and the zona pellucida, which is a perimsem, which is impermeable membrane, which allows only one sperm which reaches the egg. The only the head of the sperm will reach, only the head of the sperm reaches, and which contains the nucleus, and egg also has a nucleus. So both will fertilize, and the nucleus will combine together and form, and one nucleus will, and then when they will combine they will mix, and zygote will form, which has only single nucleus. So we can say that zygote is also a single cell. Then later from the zygote, embryo will develop, then from the embryo fetus will develop, and then at last individual will born. Okay, this is the process that we studied. And now let's study what is embryo. Let's move on the next point. Okay, so embryo, embryo. Well, actually, it's embryo is developed from embryo develops from zygote. Yes, and a zygote is formed by fertilization process. Yes, the fusion of male and female gamete in fallopian tube is called fertilization, and by fertilization zygote is formed, and from the zygote embryo is formed. Now the question is, how does the embryo form? So fertilization result in the formation of zygote. Yes, you already know fertilization. The result of fertilization is zygote, and which begins to develop into embryo. Yes, which develop into embryo. Now, how it develop? Well, you know what happens actually, kids. The zygote is a single cell. Okay, zygote is also a single cell. Actually, it is also in circular shape. So what happens? Kids, the zygote started dividing. Yes, the zygote divides. The zygote divides repeatedly. Yes, means the zygote divides continuously, and to give rise to a ball of cell. Yes, it gives rise to a ball of cell. The cell then begins to form groups. Yes. So first of all, what happens? The zygote divides to rise a ball of cell. Yes, a ball of cell is raised due to zygote when the zygote divides. So one ball of cell. This cell is actually begins to form group. Yes, these cells actually begin to form group. Okay, that develop into different tissue. Yes, first it means what is happening when zygote divides, cells forming, then the cells they form a group. These cells form a group. How they form the group of tissue by developing, yes, into different tissue. Yes, these cells develop by forming a group into different tissue, and we know that the group of cell is called tissue. Yes, the group of cell is called tissue. So these cells develop these cells begin to form group and develop into tissue. Now these tissues start forming the group and develop into organ, and so in this way it forms. Then this developing structure is termed as embryo. Yes, this developing structure is termed as embryo. Okay, the embryo gets embedded in the wall of uterus for development. Yes, then this embryo gets embedded in the wall of uterus for the development. Yes, it means embryo started developing in the uterus. Then it later converts into fetus, then newborn baby. Okay, so this is the process. So what happens? Step number 1, zygote divide. Step number 1, zygote divide, okay, and forms ball of cells, many ball of cell. These cells, step number 2. Step number 1, what is step number 1? Zygote divide and form ball of cell. Step number 2. Step number 2, the cells form the group and develop into tissue. Okay. Now, step number 3, these tissue form the group and develop into organ. Okay. This developing structure is termed as embryo. The embryo gets embedded in the wall of uterus, development. Okay. Now, let's try to understand it by the process of embryo development. Okay, let me show you the picture which will help you to understand it. Okay, this picture is actually not given in your book, but for your information I am just showing you. Okay, let's move on the next point. So kids, look at the picture. Look at the first picture is actually the day one. I have shown here according to the development of embryo in a week. I have shown here the picture according to the development of embryo in a week. Okay. So as you can see the picture, and let's talk about the day one situation. Day one. So this is a zygote, the zygote in which starting uh, dividing and forming the ball cell. Yes. So in day two you can see that it has divided and formed two cells. Okay, in this way many cells form, many ball of cell form. Now these cells try to group together, and they group together and form the tissue. They form the tissue, as you can see in the third picture, day 3. Okay, in day 3 you can see that these cells are grouping together. These cells are grouping together. Okay, and now these cells when grouped together, then they form the tissue and organ. Then they form the tissue and organ. You can see day 4. Can you see the day 4? In day form is tissue. Okay. Day 2 is cell, ball of cell. Day 3 is group of cell. Day 2 is ball of cells. Day 3 is group of cells. Day 4 is a tissue. Okay. So these tissue also started making group, as you can see, and in day 5 you can see they form a structure which is known as morula. Okay, and at last it forms embryo. At last it forms embryo, you can see, and this embryo is actually gets embedded in the wall of uterus. Yes, this embryo gets embedded in the wall of uterus for development. Okay, then it converts into fetus. What is fetus? Let's try to study. Let's move on the next point. Okay kids, let's study about fetus. Check out the spelling of fetus. F-O-E-T-U-S. F-O-E-T-U-S. So what is fetus? As you can see the picture of fetus. Yes, fetus which is present in the uterus. Yes, it is actually a baby which is not completely developed. Okay, so in this structure, as I said that fetus is actually a baby but not developed baby. Means what? Kids, fetus is actually that stage which is formed after forming embryo. In this stage, if the mother go to visit the doctor, if the mother goes to visit the doctor, then doctor will do the sonography. Yes, doctor will do the sonography, and by it he can check, the doctor can check the about the situation of fetus. So when doctor will check, he will found, the doctor will found that the body parts are started developing. In fetus condition, the body parts started developing when the doctor will do sonography. So fetus is that condition in which body parts can be seen. Yes, fetus is that condition in which body parts can be seen. Well, all the parts started developing, not they are not completely developed in very good, but this is the condition where body parts has developed. Okay, so the stage embryo in which all body parts can be seen is called fetus. Yes, the stage embryo in which all body parts can be seen is called uterus. So in embryo, slowly parts started developing, then it is known as fetus. Yes, so embryo develops into embryo turns into fetus. So gets as you can see in the picture. Yes, as you can see in the picture, you can see the a baby is inside the uterus. Yes, a baby is inside the uterus, as you can see. Okay, because the embryo is developed, embryo embryo is developing into many organs. So you can see the different parts, like you can see feet. Yes, can you see in the picture? And you can see the hands. Yes, you can see the ear, you can see the finger. Yes, finger of feet and hands, they started developing. Yes, it's true. So in fetus condition, in fetus, fetus, in this stage, in fetus stage, in this stage, the body parts started developing. Yes, in fetus stage, the body parts started developing. I hope you understood. Now let's move on the next point. Okay, so I have shown you two pictures, the pictures of frog. Yes, as you can see, the pictures of frog. So I have shown the reproductive system of male and female frog. Yes, reproductive system of male and female frog. Well, can you tell me which is frog, which is male frog and which is female frog? Can you tell me which is male frog and which is female frog? Well, the first picture actually representing the female frog. Yes, and second picture is actually representing the male frog. Yes, first picture is actually female frog, second picture is actually male frog. Look at the internal structure. As you will understand by just looking the structure, you will see the cavity. Can you see the cavity is more in a frog, female frog? Yes, the cavity is more in female frog, but the cavity is less in male frog. But the cavity is less in male frog. Okay, so both have fat body. Yes, both have fat body. But if we talk about, first of all, let's talk about the female frog body. Let's talk about the body of female frog. So they have uterus. Yes, they have uterus, and they also have adrenal gland. They also have ovary. Yes, they have oviduct. Oviduct is a fallopian tube. Okay, so they have these. And if we talk about male frog, which is on the right side, they also have kidney. Yes, and they have kidney, and female frog also have kidney, and they have testes. Yes, just like human being. They also have testes. Yes, they have testes. But in female frog have ovary. Yes, female frog have ovary, and male frogs have testes, and both have vena cava. Yes, oviduct. So these organs are present. Okay, these organs are present. Well, if you love biology, then hmm, if you love biology, then you should study about them. These topics are very interesting. Okay, in next, I hope that you understood now. Let's move on the next point. Okay, it's time to ask question from you. So, question number one. Well, today there are only two questions for you. Today there are only two questions for you. So, question number one. What is test tube baby technology? Yes, what is test tube baby technology? Explain. Yes. So, kids, test tube baby is a technology and by which the babies are born. Yes, it is very useful technology for those mother who cannot bear the baby, who cannot give birth to the baby. In some women's oviducts are blocked. Yes, in some women, what happens? Fallopian tubes are blocked. So these women are unable to bear the babies. Yes, they cannot give birth to the baby. Why? Because the sperm, which is also called male gametes, it cannot reach the egg. Yes, the sperm cannot reach the egg for the fertilization process. Yes, that's why fertilization process cannot occur. If fertilization will not happen, then zygote will not form. Yes, so fertilization is essential. So fertilization will not occur because the oviducts are blocked. So these women are unable to bear the baby. So in such case, the doctor helps. How? The doctor collect the doctor collect freshly released egg and sperm. Yes, the doctor collects freshly released egg and sperm, or egg of male from egg means male gametes and sperm means female gamete. So collected by doctor, and doctor keep them together for few hours for fertilization process. Yes, keep them together for fertilization process for few hours. Which fertilization? In vitro fertilization. Okay, IVF. So doctor keep them for IVF for few hours. So what is IVF? IVF means in vitro fertilization. IVF means in vitro fertilization. So in vitro fertilization is a process by which egg cells are fertilized, by which egg cells are fertilized by sperm outside the womb in vitro. Okay, so in case fertilization occurs, the zygote is allowed to develop. Yes, zygote is allowed to develop for about a week. Then it is placed in the mother's uterus. Yes. So in case when the fertilization occurs, the zygote will form. The zygote is allowed to develop about a week. Then after forming of zygote, it is placed in the mother's uterus. Yes, and the complete development take place in the uterus, and the baby is born like other babies. Yes, baby is born this through this technique are called test tube baby. Yes, babies which born through this technique are known as test tube baby. Now question number two. Question number two, write a short note on embryo. Yes, embryo. So you know that by fertilization zygote forms. Yes, so fertilization result in the formation of zygote which begins to develop into embryo. Yes, which started developing into embryo. The zygote divides. Yes, the zygote started dividing and repeatedly divide to give rise to ball of cell. Yes, okay, forms the ball of cell. These cells, the cells, then begins to form group. These cells then begins to form groups that develop into different tissue. Yes, the cells then begins to form group. Yes, the group of cell is known as tissue. So these cells begins to form different tissue as well as organ of the body. Yes, this developing structure is termed as embryo. Yes, this developing structure is termed an embryo. Okay, then the embryo gets embedded into the wall of uterus. Yes, the embryo gets embedded in the wall of uterus for development and converts into fetus. Okay, I hope you understood. So, what is fetus? Fetus is actually that stage in which embryo actually develop and all body parts of can be seen. Yes. Okay. I hope you understood. In next class, we will study about F for frog. Yes, we will see the reproduction in frog, and we will also study some asexual reproduction process. Okay. Now we will